Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today. Before we begin, here are today's top stories. The Mexican army killed a powerful drug lord Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera in an operation that sparked a wave of violence in various parts of the country. Gunmen retaliating for the raid blocked roads in Jalisco state, with the violence also spread to other states. The US and Canada have urged their citizens in parts of Mexico to shelter in place amid violence and flight cancellations after the top cartel boss was killed. Roadblocks have impacted airline operations, with US and Canada carriers announcing the cancellation of flights to Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara and Manzanillo. U.S. Secret Service agents fatally shot a man armed with a shotgun who breached the security perimeter of President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. No U.S. officers were injured and Trump was safe in Washington at the time of the incident. Iran and the U.S. will hold a third round of nuclear talks on Thursday amid growing concerns about the risk of military conflict between the long-time adversaries. Iran's foreign minister said details of a possible deal are being drawn up ahead of the discussions. Hamas is in the final phase of selecting a new leader, with two prominent figures competing for the position. The group recently completed the formation of a new Shura Council as well as a new political bureau. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been re-elected as the General Secretary of the ruling Workers' Party at a Congress. The decision was made in accordance with the unanimous desire of all the delegates. Hungary announced 3 countermeasures in response to Ukraine's suspension of crude oil deliveries through the Druzhba pipeline. They include halting diesel shipments from Hungary to Ukraine, refusing to provide military loans, and withholding support for new EU sanctions against Russia. New York has ordered the shutdown of the city's entire traffic network as a massive snowstorm began to hit the northeastern U.S. The ban, however, will not apply to essential workers or New Yorkers needing to travel due to emergencies. Eberechi Eze's double in a 4-1 win against Tottenham Hotspur restored Arsenal's 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League. Arsenal's biggest margin of a victory at Tottenham in the league since 1978 lifted them to 61 points from 28 games. And that was today's top news in a quick snapshot. Up next, the complete World Today Bulletin. Stay tuned.
Tutup tingkap dan pintu untuk kekal dingin dan lebih jimat.
And now for the full bulletin. The Mexican army announced that it had killed powerful drug lord Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera in an operation that sparked a wave of violence in various parts of the country. Oseguera, the 59-year-old leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, was wounded in a clash with soldiers in the town of Tapalpa in Jalisco state and died while being flown to Mexico City. The army, in a released statement, said Oseguera had $15 million bounty on his head. It said, in addition to Mexico's own military intelligence, the raid was carried out with complementary information from the U.S. authorities. Gunmen retaliating for the raid blocked more than 20 roads in western Jalisco state, which includes Tapalpa, with burning cars and trucks. The violence spread to other states as well. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum urged citizens to remain calm and said that the central government is in coordination with state authorities. Oseguera is one of the biggest Mexican drug lords to be taken down since the capture of the founders of the Sinaloa cartel, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and Ismael Zambada. Both are now serving time in the United States. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department has urged American citizens in parts of Mexico to shelter in place amid violence, roadblocks and flight cancellations after Mexican soldiers killed the top cartel boss. The department's Consular Affairs section said roadblocks have impacted airline operations, with some domestic and international flights cancelled in both Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. Similarly, Canada said it's monitoring the situation closely and advised Canadians in Mexico to keep a low profile and follow advice of local authorities. It urged citizens in Michoacan, Guerrero and Jalisco states to shelter in place, citing shootouts with security forces and explosions. U.S. carriers United, American, Southwest and Alaska, as well as the Canadian airlines Air Canada and WestJet, announced the cancellation of flights to Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara and Manzanillo. Some planes had to turn back while already en route to Mexico, including Southwest, which turned back 4 flights originally bound for Puerto Vallarta. And on a separate note, the Mexican Navy said over 1 metric ton of drugs have been seized in an operation and released videos and stills of the seized drugs. The seizure took place in San Ignacio and included illicit substances such as methamphetamine, fentanyl and cocaine, among others. The seized items were placed at the disposal of the competent authorities for the corresponding investigation. The Navy said the operation represents an economic blow to organized crime of 594 million pesos. Security Minister Omar Garcia Harfuch said that the bust would stop millions of doses from reaching the streets and contribute to the safety of Mexican families. Following increased surveillance and patrols of routes used by transnational drug trafficking networks, Mexican authorities have seized approximately 10 tons of cocaine in the past week alone. According to the Mexican Navy, the U.S. and Mexico also seized several tons of cocaine from a ship in a coordinated operation in the Pacific Ocean this month. U.S. Secret Service agents have fatally shot a man armed with a shotgun who breached the security perimeter of President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Now, Trump was in Washington at the time of the incident. The suspect, a man in his early 20s, was spotted by the north gate of the Mar-a-Lago property carrying a shotgun and a fuel can.
They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene.
No U.S. officers were injured, and the Secret Service said no one under its protection was present in Mar-a-Lago at the time. Trump, who often spends his weekends in Mar-a-Lago, has been the target of several assassination plots or attempts. Earlier this month, Ryan Ruth, who plotted to assassinate the president at a Florida golf course in September 2024, was sentenced to life in prison. Iranian officials held out hope for progress towards a deal to forestall fresh conflict when talks with U.S. negotiators resume on Thursday. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that details of a possible deal are being drawn up ahead of the renewed talks on Tehran's nuclear program. Badr al-Busaidi, Foreign Minister of Regional Mediator Oman, confirmed that talks would resume on Thursday in Geneva with a positive push to go to the extra mile towards finalizing the deal.
If they want to find a resolution for Iran's peaceful nuclear program, the only way is diplomacy. And we have proved this in the past, and I believe that still there is a good chance to have a diplomatic solution which is based on a win-win game, and a solution is at our reach. So there is no need for any military build-up, and military build-up cannot help it and cannot pressurize us.
Aragchi further noted that during the upcoming discussions, both sides can work on the elements and prepare a good text before coming to a fast deal. In a social media post, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian likewise said previous talks yielded encouraging signals. A Taliban government security source said Pakistan's claim of killing at least 80 insurgents in strikes on Afghanistan is false and imaginary. Talal Chowdhury, Pakistan's Deputy Interior Minister, offered no evidence for his claim in an interview with Geo News that at least 70 insurgents were killed in the strikes. Pakistan's state-run media later reported that fatalities jumped to 80. Media outlets in Afghanistan were not able to verify the toll given by Pakistan, while Afghan officials said at least 18 people were killed in the strikes, including children. The Afghan Defense Ministry said various civilian areas in the provinces of Nangarhar and Paktika in eastern Afghanistan were hit, including a religious madrasa and multiple homes. Insurgency has surged in Pakistan in recent years, much of it blamed on separatist groups closely allied with Afghanistan's Taliban. Islamabad accuses them of operating from inside Afghanistan, a charge both the group and Kabul deny. A senior Hamas official said the Palestinian group is in the final phase of selecting a new leader, with two prominent figures competing for the position. Since the war in Gaza erupted in 2023, Israeli forces have killed several Hamas leaders, including two former chiefs. Hamas recently completed the formation of a new Shura Council of more than 80 members, as well as a new 18-member political bureau. The group has completed its internal elections and has reached the final stage of selecting the head of the political bureau. The official said that the race for the group's leadership is now between Khalid Mashal and Khalil al-Hayya. A second Hamas source confirmed the development, while a third source said that the new leader would lead the group for only 1 year. Members of the council are elected every 4 years by representatives from Hamas' 3 branches: the Gaza Strip, the occupied West Bank, and the movement's external leadership. The council subsequently elects the political bureau, which in turn selects the head of the group. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been re-elected as the General Secretary of the ruling Workers' Party at a rare Congress. Now, the Korean Central News Agency said that the decision was made in accordance with the unshakable will and unanimous desire of all the delegates. The report said that the leadership of Kim, the war deterrence of the country with the nuclear forces as its pivot, has been radically improved. At the Congress, the party also voted to revise its own rules with a view towards consolidating the party ranks in a qualitative way and ensuring impartiality in applying the party discipline. Held just once every 5 years, the days-long party congress offers a rare glimpse into the workings of a nation where even mundane details are shrouded in secrecy. It is just the 9th time the Workers' Party Congress has convened under the Kim family's decades-long rule. The gathering directs state efforts on everything from house building to war planning. Still ahead, multiple nations mulling response plans for U.S. tariff hike.
Padamkan komputer untuk lebih penjimatan.
Welcome back. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has announced 3 countermeasures in response to Ukraine's suspension of crude oil deliveries through the Druzhba pipeline. Now, he said Hungary will secure its fuel supply and take necessary countermeasures until shipments resume. The measures include halting diesel shipments from Hungary to Ukraine, refusing to provide military loans, and withholding support for new EU sanctions against Russia. Orbán stressed that energy security is a matter of fundamental national interest, and any action that jeopardizes Hungary's energy supply will be met with a firm response. He noted that Hungary will maintain its economic and social stability and take further action if necessary. Hungarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade said Hungary will not allow decisions important to Kiev to move forward until Ukraine restarts crude oil deliveries to Hungary via the Druzhba pipeline. The Druzhba pipeline, which transports Russian oil to Central Europe via Ukraine, has faced repeated disruptions over the past year amid the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The governments of multiple countries said they are mulling plans in response to the possible new U.S. tariff hike. U.S. President Donald Trump said that he will raise the new global tariff to 15%, one day after he announced a 10% worldwide duty, following a heavy blow from the Supreme Court. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said that he will travel to Washington, D.C. to hold talks with Trump on the issue. Merz emphasized that it will be made clear to the U.S. side that tariffs are harmful to all parties, especially to the countries that are taxed. Nicolas Forestier, Minister of Delegate for Foreign Trade and Economic Attractiveness, said France is in consultation with other EU member states and the European Commission regarding the issue. He said when necessary, the EU can employ measures including anti-coercive instruments such as export controls and service tariffs. In South Korea, the presidential office said it convened a meeting to discuss response plans. The government said it will continue to hold consultations with the U.S. to ensure the outcomes of bilateral agreements and the conditions for exports to the U.S. are not affected. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and his Brazilian counterpart Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva are attending summit talks today, with the two leaders expected to discuss strengthening bilateral cooperation in a wide range of fields. Lula arrived in Seoul for a three-day visit at the invitation of Lee, marking his first state visit to South Korea in 21 years. During the summit, the two leaders are expected to discuss cooperation in trade, investment, climate, energy, space, the defense industry, science and technology, agriculture, education, culture, and people-to-people exchanges. The Executive Office and residence of the President of South Korea noted that a memorandum of understanding would be signed followed by a joint press announcement. Lula's entourage would also be attending a state dinner later in the day. Lee extended an invitation for Lula to visit South Korea during their meeting on the margins of the Group of 20 summit in South Africa in November last year. Since establishing diplomatic ties in 1959, Brazil has become South Korea's largest trading partner in South America. New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani has ordered the shutdown of the city's entire traffic network for all but emergency travel as a massive snowstorm began to hit the northeastern U.S. Tens of millions of Americans from the U.S. capital Washington to the northern state of Maine prepped up for the 60 centimeters of snow forecast in some areas. The National Weather Service said blizzard conditions would quickly materialize from Maryland up to southeastern New England, making travel extremely treacherous. In New York, Mamdani said streets, highways and bridges would be shut down until noon on Monday. The ban, however, will not apply to essential workers or New Yorkers needing to travel due to emergencies. Meanwhile, New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill declared a state of emergency, freeing up funds and allowing the swift deployment of resources to address the weather crisis. The storm comes just weeks after the region recovered from another devastating winter weather system that was linked to more than 100 deaths. President Donald Trump's administration reversed course on the program that lets millions of airline travelers get expedited security screening. It announced that the program will remain operational after earlier saying that it would be suspended amid a shutdown of the Homeland Security Department. The department said that the Transportation Security Administration's pre-check program will remain operational. However, the administration has suspended another program called Global Entry that expedites U.S. Customs and Immigration clearance for pre-approved, low-risk international travelers entering the U.S. The initial announcement that the pre-check program would be halted raised alarm among travel groups and airlines as a busy travel season involving students on spring break starts in the U.S. More than 20 million people are enrolled in pre-check, which allows approved passengers to go through a dedicated, faster security lane at US airports. It is designed to reduce wait times and streamline screening. Coming up in sports, Ezra's double gets Arsenal title bid back on track.
Lebih menjimatkan memasak dengan jerit penuh.
Kicking off our sports segment with football, Eberezi timed his return to the Arsenal score sheet to perfection with 2 goals in his side's 4-1 derby rout of Tottenham Hotspur that calmed their Premier League title nerves. Eze showed great athleticism to volley past Guillermo Vicario in the 32nd minute after a cross from Bukayo Saka bounced up for him. Tottenham were gifted a way back when the usually impeccable Declan Rice dallied in his own area and was dispossessed by Randall Kolomwani, who drove a shot past David Raya to send the home fans wild. Shortly after the interval, Victor Gutierrez was allowed too much time to control Yuran Timber's pass before firing right-footed past Vicario. Eze made it 5 goals in 2 games against Tottenham, firing in from close range in the 61st minute, much to the derision of the home fans. By the Griokis struck again in stoppage time. Celebrating Arsenal fans were already in full voice. Arsenal's biggest margin of victory at Tottenham in the league since 1978 lifted them to 61 points from 28 games. They moved 5 points clear of second-placed Manchester City. Meanwhile, reigning champions Liverpool are not in the title race but boosted their hopes of a top 4 finish as they nicked a last-gasp 1-0 win at relegation-threatened Nottingham Forest. Callum Hudson-Odoi had an early chance for the home side, but Alisson stood tall to thwart him, and Elliot Anderson spurned a couple of decent chances as the visitors barely threatened at all. Liverpool's best chance in normal time came in the 54th minute when Mohamed Salah headed a deep cross back to Curtis Jones, but Forest keeper Stefan Ortega got a foot to his shot to avert the danger. After a pedestrian 90 minutes in which they barely managed a shot on target, Alexis McAllister lit the fuse with a stoppage time effort that was ruled out for handball before rifling home a rebound in the 97th minute to snatch the win. Liverpool are 6th in the table, level on 45 points with Chelsea and Manchester United, who are 4th and 5th. Forest are 17th on 27 points, 2 above the relegation zone. And that wraps up World Today. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM. I'm Mohana Priya. Salam Malaysia Madani. Thank you for your company.